Okay,
All
I
right.
think the live broadcast has started.
Yes, it has started. Sorry. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome to About Talk. I think this is the third edition, and I am hoping we have. I think we even have larger audiences now, more than before. So we're still learning on it. We try to find ways in which we can bring more people together to get information uh, about medical and health issues across the country. So, without wasting much time, we have Dr. Adedayo here. She will be our speaker for this evening. She'll be talking on human papillomavirus and cervical cancer. So um, she has been in the should I call this specific field for a while, and I think we've worked on something similar together in the past. So our experience, knowledge, and every other information about HPV and cervical cancer, she will be giving us doses of it this evening so that we may learn and we may also be able to apply those information, because that's the essence of the BioTalk. Get information, I'll be able to apply it into our life, personal, professional, and everything. So thank you, Ma, for joining us this evening, and I will hand over to you now so that you can continue.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and it's good to see some new faces, like some faces that I've missed and new faces that I'll just be meeting. So without much ado, let's go straight to the program. We'll be talking about human papillomavirus and cervical cancer. So I'll share my screen now. Don't know, can you see my screen? Okay, let me make it full. So I guess we can see my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So I am Adedayo Raji-Faneye. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Biology, College of Medicine.
Sorry, can I cut in a little bit, ma? Sorry. Please, let's put our stuff on mute until we want to maybe ask a question, so that the background noise will be a little bit reduced. Please, everybody except the speaker should put their mic on mute. Thanks so much. All right, thank you, ma. You can continue.
All right. Okay, so today we'll be talking about HPV, that is the acronym for human papillomavirus, and cervical cancer. First of all, let us have an overview of what cancer is. So many people, cancer here, cancer there. What does it mean? So cancer is a name given to a collection of related diseases. And it's in all types of cancer. What happens is that the body cells begin to divide without stopping, and these dividing cells, these abnormal cells, will now spread to surrounding tissues. That's in a nutshell what cancer is all about. How does cancer start? So cancers can start anywhere in the body, because the whole body is made up of cells. Our hands, nose, mouth, all the parts of our body, they are made up of cells, trillions and gazillions of cells. So because we have cells everywhere, cancer can start anywhere. In normal protocol, you have cells divide, normal cells grow, they divide, they form new cells as the body needs them. Some old cells will die, some damaged cells will die, while new cells will take their place. This is the normal protocol of normal cells growing, dying. The same way new babies are born and older people die, or people die, new people are born every day. But when cancer develops, this order of process gets broken down. So some cells become abnormal. So, and they are damaged, they become abnormal or damaged. So instead of them to die, they get become, like I tell it in my class, they get to become super cells. So super cells that do not die, and they now form new cells. So super cells will begin to give birth to other super cells, they begin to give birth to other super cells where they are not needed. So their rate of multiplication becomes more than the normal cells multiply, and you now have these abnormal cells growing and growing and growing without stopping. So they now form, sometimes they form solid tissue, they form in a particular place, so that's where you find tumor like growth in this nose, in the cervix. So if this growth occurs in the cervix, it's called cervical, it can cause cervical cancer. So some it can be in the brain, some it can be in the stomach, or anywhere in the body. Sometimes they may not form a solid tissue, like in the case of cancers of the blood, hematological carcinomas, such as leukemias and lymphomas. So they do not form solid tissues. So, but those abnormal cells will continue to multiply in the blood, and before you know it, they are all over the body. So these cancerous cells, these cancerous tumors are malignant. What this means is that they can spread into or invade other body tissues. You know, normally breast tissue stays within the breast. Cervix tissue stays within the cervix. But these super cells, by the time they divide, they get to spread everywhere. They can invade anywhere. So you now start getting maybe cells of the breast, abnormal cells from the breast. You start seeing it in the liver, or you see it in the kidney, and so that means they can spread or invade nearby tissues. They can travel almost all over the blood cells. So, and they can break up, travel to other systems, especially by the time they get into the blood system. You know, the blood system, they can travel around the body. So you now find them in other sites other than the original sites where they were formed. And once they get to these new sites, they start forming tumors there. They start depositing there, start growing, like influencing, recruiting other cells to join them, recruiting other cells to join them. But we have some types of tumors that do not spread. We call these ones benign tumors. So these do not spread or invade other tissues. They just grow there, and those ones can easily be managed. But they can become quite large, that if you don't remove them, they also can cause damage. So, and the tumor cell, the benign tumor cells, when you remove them, they don't grow back. But the malignant cells, if you remove them, they can still continue to grow, and you remove them, they'll keep growing, and you see them all over the brain, all over the body. And this could be life-threatening, because by the time they spread, they start damaging other tissues where they are and everything. So that is how cancer starts. So we have different types of cancer. There are more than 100 types. So, and cancer types are usually named after the organs or tissues where they originally started from, where the cancer is from. So like, for example, lung cancer now starts from the cells of the lungs. Brain cancer started from the cells of the brain. And cancer may also be described by the type of cells that form them. Sometimes if it is epithelial cells that cause them, they call it epithelial malignancies, or it can be squamous cells carcinoma. So it depends on the type of cells that's divided to form the cancer. So now let's come back to cervical cancer. So cervical cancer, it has been found in research that it is caused by chronic infection, that is persistent infection over a long period of time of some group of papillomaviruses. So for human papillomavirus, some groups, once you are infected with them for a long time, they are the main risk factor for cervical cancer. And these viruses, they are ubiquitous. That is, they are common, and you can get them through intimate skin-to-skin contact, such as having vaginal, anal, or oral sex with someone that has the virus or is infected with the virus. And there are also other risk factors. So let's say you have, if you are infected with human papillomavirus and you are also a smoker, you are at higher risk of having cervical cancer. Or you have a weakened immune system, you are at higher risk of having cervical cancer. Chlamydia, infection with chlamydia has also been associated with cervical cancer. So you are infected with human papillomavirus, you are also infected with chlamydia, you are at risk of having cervical cancer. If you are infected with human papillomavirus and you are overweight, you are obese, you are also at risk of having cervical cancer. So people are on certain hormonal treatment. In fact, some birth control hormonal pills and the infection with human papillomavirus have also been associated with cervical cancer. So in view of this, because from all the things I've listed out, a lot of people, quite a number of people are at risk, but almost everybody are at risk of cervical cancer, because you may not be smoking, but somebody around you smokes. You may have malaria or other infections that has weakened your immune system. Chlamydia infection is very common. A lot of us are overweight. Some of us are on birth control pills. So quite a number of people are at risk of having cervical cancer. So that is why WHO recommended that regular, consistent screening for this cancer is one of the preventive way of having it. So if you do not have regular cervical cancer screening, you are also at risk of having cervical cancer. Okay, so let's move on. So what is the situation? You know, when you hear, hey, cervical cancer, it is affecting some people. It's really not, most of us, it is not really, it has not been brought home to us. But I'll tell you that it is the leading cause of leading malignancies among women in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, you have like 50 to 33 million people, age 15 and older, are at risk of developing cervical cancer presently. And every year, you have above 8,240 women dying of cervical cancer yearly in Nigeria. In fact, that is how common it is. Maybe for some of us working in the medical sector, you see, hospital setting, you see people year in, every day. There's one day that you will not hear, okay, maybe somebody has just been diagnosed, or somebody just died of cervical cancer, or somebody is being treated for cervical cancer. That is how common it is. But unfortunately, there is almost none or poor existence of screening program, and a lot of people do not even know about it. If people don't know about it, people don't know how to prevent themselves from having it or what to do. And you know what also makes cervical cancer very deadly to women in developing countries, is because by the time they are presenting at the clinic, it's already too late. Because this cancer will not give you signs, they will not give you symptoms, you will not feel pain. So and most of us, if we do not feel pain, we don't even believe that we are ill. So by the time you are feeling pain or becoming seriously, it's already too late, has spread everywhere. And this is one of the major causes of death among Nigerian women. So in preventing this, WHO recommended that there should be screening, there should be treatment of, if you screen and you find out that, okay, you are having precancer or you are about to have it, you should be treated. Then people that are not infected with human papillomavirus should be vaccinated. So that is the WHO recommendation for prevention of cervical cancer. And believe me, it has worked in developed countries. In fact, screening alone has worked in developed country, because once they screen you, it is mandatory for you to have your cervical cancer screening at least once a year. So once you are tested, they pick it. You know, you were tested last year, you are negative. You are tested this year, and you're positive. It's almost like it is still at a manageable stage. So they'll be treated, and that is how they were able to prevent majority of the cases. So just only a few cases that they have there. But unfortunately for us here, because we don't have screening program, we have the bulk of the burden of the disease is with us here in developing countries, and people are not even screening, and when they present, it's already too late. Another way of preventing cervical cancer is vaccination of uninfected individuals. So in developed countries, there are standard vaccination programs. You don't have a choice. In fact, your children will not be admitted into school if you don't have the vaccination card. But here, the vaccination, people don't know much about it. And even those that know, because of the cost, a lot of people are not even making use of this option. So let's now take this prevention, the prevention recommendation one by one. So screening test for cervical cancer. There is the visual inspection of the cervix after painting with acetic acid. So they call this one VIA. So you could go to many of the primary healthcare center and get tested like this. The cervix will be painted with acetic acid, and if there is, they're actually looking for abnormal development or signs of the cervical cancer. But I'm telling you, this method, although it's cheap, it is less sensitive because it only peaks after about like an advanced stage. Although not the poorest stage, but it could have been prevented earlier. So that is the limitation for VIA. There is also cervical cytology after pipe staining. So this is how the test works. A woman goes to the hospital, they will collect scrapings. They will take scrapings of the cervix and put on a slide and stain with a method that is developed by Nicholas Papillomavirus. So that is the meaning of the PAP. The Papillomavirus is a shorting form from the PAP is a shorting form from the person that invented the staining method. So it will be stained and the cells will be examined under the microscope. So they are looking out for abnormal cells that have been damaged, or cells that are cancerous. And if the number of these cells that they see is what they use in staging it. Also, they can do liquid cytology. So in this form, instead of collecting the sample on a slide, the cervical scraping is put in a liquid form, and this is then concentrated and the cells examined. So when this is done, the results are actually are usually in 4 stages. It could be 4 or 5 types. You could have normal cells. So they look at it and they did not see any abnormal cells. Then they will tell you, you are normal, you are okay, come back next year or come back in 6 months' time. Then you could have, there's a staging called CIN1. So if they see CIN1, they note, you are having a few abnormal cells. Please check again in 6 months' time to be sure that it is not progressing. The same thing with CIN2. They will say, we have a greater number of abnormal cells, but we are watching it. Check again in 6 months' time. If it is CIN3, they say, we have quite a large number of abnormal cells, but it has not become cervical cancer. Let us treat you. So they usually start treating as CIN3 stage. Then you have the pre-cancer stage. Then you have the full-blown cancer stage. Then there's another testing method, and that is to test for human papillomavirus. So they do the testing you test for the DNA, the viral DNA, the DNA of the human papillomavirus. And after you test for it, if it is positive, they will now check So that's called genotyping, to check which type. Is it the type? Because not all human papillomavirus are causes cancer. But to check, is it this type that we found, is it the type that is that can cause cancer or not? So that is HPV DNA testing and genotyping. Okay, so let's now look at human papillomavirus on its own. So if this virus affects both male and female, so it's not only male that it affects. It's a DNA virus that has a double-stranded circular DNA. Okay. It is transmitted, like I said, through vagina, anal, or oral cells and sex by skin-to-skin contact or rubbing, and can also infect pregnant women can also infect her fetus with it. There is one thing I want to add at this point. It can affect both male and female. So if a man has human papillomavirus in his genitals, it can cause genital cancer. But because of the morphology or anatomy of the male genital, once you start having abnormal development, it is easily noticeable and it can be treated. So that is why you don't see a lot of male men dying of penile cancer, like you see women dying of cervical cancer. Another thing is that in male, for those that engage in anal sex, it can cause anal cancer. And you have this is actually on the rise now because of the increased number of people that are performing anal sex, and because of the issue of men who have sex with men, they are more at risk of anal cancer. Also, oral sex, because a lot of people are engaging in oral sex. So you now see a number of people having what we call oropharyngeal cancer. And before, it's not a common thing around there, but it's becoming more common. And you're now even finding it among, if you find it maybe in the elderly, but now you're finding it among adolescents, like 20-something years old, less than 30, coming down with oral cancer, oropharyngeal cancer. And these people are not even smokers. So how did they get it? They got it from oral sex. So, and this oral sex and anal sex can affect both male and female. So far you are engaged in this risk behavior. Okay, so incidence and prevalence. Human papillomavirus is found worldwide, has a worldwide distribution, and you have a lot of people have subclinical presentation. It's more common than classic infection. So a lot of people will be infected, they will not know. And detection of HPV is common in elderly people. In fact, we've tested people that are not showing any signs of cervical cancer or infection, and we've seen that quite a number. In fact, the positivity rate is as high as 28, 25%, even in some communities, of people that are not showing any symptoms. So that is how common. In fact, it is the commonest sexually transmitted viral disease. And it's common among young adults. And the infection is usually through direct sexual contact. Okay, so HPV and cervical cancer. How does HPV cause cancer? How does this virus cause cancer? This virus, I said the other time that it is not all types of human papillomavirus that cause cancer. So they group them based on their ability to cause cancer. So you have those that have a higher ability to cause cancer, they are called high-risk HPV. And those that are not likely to cause cervical cancer or cancer, they are called low-risk human papillomavirus. And we have about 16 types of high-risk human papillomavirus. And what they do is that once they infect cells of maybe the cervix or anus or the throat or something, once they infect the cells, this normal cells has regulatory processes. So the cells are told that they are like regulatory system, like regulatory clock within the body, within the system that tells cells divide. No, don't divide. This cell die. This cell don't die. So those are their regulatory factors already in the normal system. But this virus will now go and block one of those regulatory systems. It's called the P53 gene and the PRB gene. So the virus will go and block them and degrade them. So once the virus blocks these genes that controls the regulation of normal cell division, the cells does not have control again. So it begins to divide and divide and divide, and that is what leads to HPV cancer. So that is why we now call them cervical cancer and other HPV related cancer. So it causes these cells to rapidly divide without control. So luckily, there are some vaccines that are available to protect from some of the high-risk HPV, but unfortunately, it is not all the high-risk. We don't have vaccine that can protect against all the high-risk HPV present, but those ones that are available are effective. So combination of vaccination and continuous screening has helped to reduce mortality due to cervical cancer. So HPV DNA testing. So this one identifies HPV infected individuals. So, and it tells you that you are infected with high-risk HPV, so you are at risk of cervical cancer. And those ones that are negative of this HPV infection, they know that they are not at risk of cervical cancer. And people that are infected with high-risk HPV, they are at risk of cervical cancer. So in the developed country, this is how the testing or the control program has been triaged. So you have people when every year you test for human papillomavirus. So if you are positive for human papillomavirus, you'll be asked to go for cervical cytology. In some countries, they combine the two, like in the US. So every year you go for cervical cytology and human papillomavirus DNA testing. So if you are positive for human papillomavirus DNA, even though you do not have abnormal cytology, you are labeled as being at risk, and you are asked to check for, and you now continue to do cervical cytology repeatedly with higher frequency. But if your human papillomavirus test, DNA test is negative, you know you are not at risk of cervical cancer, and you do not need to test again for another 3 to 4 years. And while those that are positive will need to be tested like every 6 months, as in testing for cervical cytology every 6 months. So cervical cytology or VIA or liquid cytology test alone is not as sensitive, and it is subjective because it depends on who is viewing the slides or viewing the cells to be able to determine whether this cell is abnormal or this cervix is not looking so well. So they need to be repeated at least once or twice a year for it to be effective. But combination of HPV DNA testing with cervical cytology in HPV positive individual is the best approach. It's more sensitive, you save cost and time of repeated testing. So the third recommendation for WHO of preventing cervical cancer is vaccination. So presently, globally, we have 3 types of vaccine available. We have the 9-valent Gardasil, that is, this 9-valent Gardasil can protect against 9 out of the about 16 high-risk types. While then we have the quadrivalent Gardasil, that is, this one can protect against 2 of the high-risk type and 2 of the low-risk type. Permit me to go back a little. Human papillomavirus, apart from the high risk that causes cervical cancer, there's another group of virus that causes what we call genital warts. So these warts, they are like, like grape-like growth on the genitals. So it can be on the vagina, it can be in the anus, it can be around the penile shaft, it can be at the tip of the penile shaft, and so there are some group of viruses that causes it. The most common among them is HPV 6 and 11, while the most common HPV type that causes cervical cancer is 16 and 18. So for the quadrivalent Gardasil, you have so the vaccine is protective against HPV 16 and 18, while it's also protective against HPV 6 and 11, the types that causes genital warts. Then you have the divalent Cervirex. So the divalent Cervirex is only protective against 2, that is HPV 16 and 18. The downside of this vaccination program is that if you are vaccinated against, even let's say you take the 9-valent Gardasil, you are still exposed, you are still at risk of being infected with as much as another 6 or 7 that can cause, but although they've taken care to make sure that the most common one that has been associated with cervical cancer are the ones that are included in the Gardasil 9. But this is based on research from among the Caucasians and the developed countries. So in the developing countries, especially in Africa and West Africa, research has not really gone to know exactly the type, the most common type. From my own personal research, I've seen more than 6, 7 types that are associated with cervical cancer. And some of these are not even covered in the 9-valent Gardasil. So that is the downside. But being that as it may, it is still important that the vaccination be taken, because there is something we call cross-protectiveness. So you might not, the vaccine might not cover those strains, but the antibody that has been generated from the vaccine can help protect you a little bit. So even if you are infected with those strains, your risk of developing cervical cancer will not be as high as if you are not vaccinated. So people are still advised to get vaccinated. And in countries where they've implemented this strategy, the rate of HPV-related cancer has really decreased. So who should take the vaccine? There is a lot of controversy on who should take the vaccine, because if you're already infected, why take the vaccine? So that is why initially they said adolescent girls, before they start sexual activities, should be given the vaccine. And that is the policy that is used in the US, in Canada, and in a lot of European countries. Then in the UK, they noticed that, okay, although girls, if they get vaccinated, they'll be protected against cervical cancer. But boys, they are also at risk of anal cancer. They are also at risk of oropharyngeal cancer. So let's give both boys and girls that are, before they start having engaged in sex. So they give between 9 and 12 years. They give the vaccine to both boys and girls between 9 and 12 years. Also, some women, after they've tested, they've had evidence that they've never been infected with the virus. They also could take the vaccine. But women that are already infected, there is no prophylactic. Vaccine is preventive. It is not prophylactic. Although some people, there are some research groups that are working on prophylactic vaccine. I mean prophylactic in the sense that although you've been infected, if you take the vaccine, it will help you treat the infection that you have, as well as protect you from having further infection. So that is that about HPV vaccine. But presently in Nigeria, although we have I think we have Cervical that is marketed by GSK. We do not have Gardasil, either 4 or 9, unless you buy it from abroad to use. And the Cervical, you take 2 doses. It's not because of the cost. I think it costs as much as 5,000 or 6,000 a dose, and you have to take 2 doses before you be given. So that's talking about between 10 and 12,000. So that has discouraged the people from taking the vaccine, and it's not presently part of our national immunization program. So the vaccine is, although it's available, but people are not really taking it. We're encouraging that adolescent girls be given the vaccine, as well as women that are not been infected with the virus should be given the vaccine. So that is that about human papillomavirus and cervical cancer in a nutshell. If you have any question, available. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ma. In fact, okay, I think that should be most of that's nutshell, like you said, because I know that you still have a lot in the tank, so you're just trying to help us manage our time, which is actually very good. So before I ask some set of questions, but before I do that, let me see if others have questions so that I may tick them off here if the questions they match one another. So any question, please? Sorry, you have to unmute yourself so that you can ask questions. Please don't forget that we've put everything on mute. And okay, in the absence of none, let me quickly ask this. Maybe you guys will be coming up with your questions later. And okay, Ma, you were saying something about the frequency of tests. So how frequent should women go for this test? The reason why I ask is this: you mentioned something about people who were engaged in risky behavior, and I recollect, if I can recollect very well, back then at Department of Virology, we have some people who are always coming monthly to do HIV tests, and we have a saying that myself and today we always say to people, we always tell them that what you are looking for, you will find it, because you're always coming every month. You don't know what you are looking for. So, like, if you're not careful, you find it. So, but due to the urgency of what you just said, how frequent should those who are at risk or those who are not at risk, how frequent should they come for this test? So that we'll start from there. I still have other questions so that.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Yeah, like I said, in the developed countries, the normal cervical cytology, you are expected to do it at least once a year. But
okay,
if you do
let me even put that. Let me even be putting that down because I need that information. So cervical cytology should be done once a year.
Yeah. So for cervical cytology, you're supposed to do once a year. If you're doing visual inspection, you should do it minimum of twice a year, because that is very highly subjective. But for HPV DNA testing, if you do HPV DNA testing and you are negative, you don't need to do another one for another 3 years. And you don't need to do cervical cytology for another 3 years if your HPV DNA is negative.
Okay, that's 3 years if it's negative, not for 3 years. Yeah. Okay.
But if it is positive, if your HPV DNA is positive, then you need to be doing your cervical cytology every year. You must not miss it. Okay.
HPV, for positive HPV, that's like once in a year, right? Or you should follow if they are using virtual inspection, they do it twice in a year.
Yes.
That's that acetic acid, blah blah blah. Okay. Okay, that's once a year. All right. Okay. Okay, that makes some sense. So I'll be able to transfer the information to. Okay. So now, Ma, during the lecture, you never mentioned anything concerning treatments. If some people have discovered, okay, if let's say they are positive, or they are they are okay. I know the one for genital warts. I know we have some, at least I know they have some treatments, like there's some chemicals that can be used to burn up the warts. Then we have laser treatments. I know about laser treatment as well for genital warts. But you didn't mention any treatment for women. Is there any treatments, regimens?
Yeah, for people that are infected with human papillomavirus, there is no
Yes.
treatment yet for human papillomavirus. So that is why you are expected to keep checking, to be sure that the virus has, you do not have abnormal cytology. So for those with abnormal cytology, like I said, if the grading is CIN1, they will not treat, they just say keep watch. If the grading is CIN2, they will still not treat, but they'll say keep watch. If the grading is CIN3, the person will do what we call a colposcopy. So it's like they are going to like cut off or burn off that part of the cervix so that the virus will be destroyed along the line. So if you go through colposcopy, you will have to do another HPV testing to be sure that you are not still infected. Then the same thing they will do for precancer cell. So if it is cancer and stage 1, they can remove the whole of the cervix. If it is stage 1 or stage 2, when you have cancer that has not spread, is not malignant, and is not has not metastasized, they will burn off. They can remove the whole of the cervix. So it's surgical treatment. So they remove the whole of the cervix, and the person is like protected by them. So that is the treatment options we have for human papillomavirus, high-risk human papillomavirus infection and cervical cancer. For low risk, the one that causes genital warts, like you said, there is this podophyllin painting that is used. Yes, but you are not advised to do it yourself. So you are supposed to go to the hospital to get it done, because sometimes when the area where you have the wart might not be easily accessible to you. So you get the podophyllin treatment. There's also cryotherapy, where they use like ice to burn off the warts. But in all those cases, we also
use
have
what?
the issue of ice, cryotherapy. So
Okay. Dry ice.
Yes,
Okay.
dry ice to burn off the part. So there's still risk of reoccurrence in those stages. So with those treatment options, after you've used it, maybe after sometimes it can come back again, or you may be lucky it will not come back. So those are the treatment options we have.
All right, sorry. Based on that treatment, you mentioned something, surgical removing of the cervix. Is the cervix not important? Important in women. So
Yeah,
that's.
it is. But it's like when you have mastectomy for people with breast
Okay.
cancer. So
Oh.
they have to, because if it's cancer, if it's cervical cancer stage 1 or 2, the best option is to remove the cervix. So because it is a genital, it is a reproductive organ, and you know that reproductive organ is not what do I say now? With or without it, you can live. You don't need it to be alive like that. So it can be easily removed. And in fact, some people, what they do is, when they are above 50, and they know maybe they tested, they've had maybe CIN1, CIN2, it kept progressing, they have HPV, maybe they have fibroid, they'll just go for total vasectomy. So they remove both the uterus, the cervix, and everything, and that person knows that he's free of
Wow.
having any of those related,
Uh,
genital-related cancer. The
oh,
female
okay.
reproductive system-related cancer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. Okay. You've already answered this question earlier, but I think I need to verify actually. When you are mentioning about those people who are eligible to take the vaccine, you mentioned adolescent boys, adolescent girls, but you skipped men. I saw women there too. So I don't understand. Are we? What's happening? Should we not get the
No,
vaccine as well?
the same principle that affected the women is the same principle that is going to guide the men. So you need to first of all do the testing to be sure you are not infected. So you can do an antibody test. So if the person
Okay.
is negative, you can then go for the vaccination because there is no need
Okay.
vaccinating when you are already infected.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So, and
All
that
right.
is the same thing that goes for the women. So, let's say you do the HPV DNA testing, you are negative, you don't have the virus, the virus is undetectable, and you do the antibody test, you are negative, you can also go for the vaccination. But being vaccinated for women, being vaccinated does not stop you from going to do the repeated check, the screening test. You still have to do the screening test because the vaccine is not protective against all the high risk genotypes.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, man. Okay, you said that we don't have any vaccination plan in Nigeria for HPV. No, no, like like the regular vaccination
No.
for. So how do we get it then?
Yeah, human papillomavirus, HPV vaccine is not part of our regular EPI, the expanded program for immunization is not part of it. So,
Okay,
but in many of those vaccine centers, especially those in tertiary hospitals, the marketers for GSK, I know in Nigeria, the marketers for GSK already have their stands there. So you could purchase the vaccine and get it and get vaccinated in those places. But I'm not sure now primary healthcare centers. And you know that majority of people go to this primary healthcare center for their vaccination. So if you want to take HPV vaccine, you will need to go to a uh, tertiary vaccination center that is located in tertiary hospitals, and because that is where you have the um, the marketing
so
agents,
by tertiary hospitals, you are talking about a place like a UCH,
like the
like
teaching hospitals.
teaching hospitals. Okay, because that's the question
Yeah,
I wanted to ask next. Where can we
yeah,
have access to those
yeah. Like teaching
vaccines?
hospitals. Some big pharmacies too, they stock it. So if you can buy it in those big pharmacies and go to your maybe a primary healthcare center where you'll be given. So
Okay,
you could purchase
okay,
it
we can
yourself.
purchase it at the pharmacies.
Yes, some big pharmacies do have it.
Okay,
Like they stock it, and so you can purchase it and take it to where you'll be given.
okay, we can't take it ourselves.
No. I
Okay,
would discourage that.
okay, okay. So teaching hospitals, pharmacies. Okay, those are location for vaccines. All
Vaccine.
right.
Okay, let me add this. I talked about where you can get vaccine. I forgot to tell where you can get tested for both cervical cytology and
Okay.
the HPV DNA testing. For
Oh, okay.
VIA, there's I think most secondary healthcare centers, they are maternity clinics. They are, let's say, O&G, maternity clinic or gynae clinic, you can get
Okay.
the VIA test done. At
Let me
least
take a
in
name.
most, especially anyway, in the south and west. I don't know how the east is or how the north is, but in Ibadan, I think Ibadan and Lagos, and I think some around Osun State, you could get the VIA done in most secondary or like your general hospitals and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like the state
That's
general
for
hospitals.
VIA,
The
right?
VIA, the
Okay.
VIA. Then
General.
the cervical cytology. You have some specialized, apart from tertiary hospitals, and it's not even in all tertiary hospitals, but I know they have a cytology center in UCH where you can get the cervical cytology done. I'm not sure they have in Ife OAU Teaching Hospital. I'm not sure. So, but if you inquire in tertiary hospitals, then you might get. Then you have some specialized labs too that does it. So I know same lab does it. We do it also at Gene Lab. The Gene Lab in Ibadan. You can do your cervical cytology there too.
Cytology,
so standard tertiary, I mean private labs, all the standard big private labs, I think you can get it done there. Then for HPV DNA testing, there are actually very few places where you can get. I know you can get it done at Human Biology Institute in Abuja.
In Abuja, okay.
Yes, and I think it's some very big private laboratories too. You can also get it, and they don't do it at same lab. I think they do at ABC in Ibadan. We also do it at Gene Lab.
We do at Gene Lab. Yeah, I remember that.
Yes,
we always
we do at Gene Lab.
At Gene Lab, all right. Okay, so these are good information.
You can do it at Ikeja Teaching Hospital too.
Okay, Ikeja Teaching Hospital. That's for HPV DNA testing.
DNA testing. No, I'm not sure of that Ikeja Teaching Hospital. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, when we get there, they will ask. Let me quickly put it down, at least so that by the time we're suggesting places, they can get there and see for themselves. All right, man. So, okay, let me quickly. Okay, I think you've already mentioned even the question I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask about the cost of the vaccines. You've already said it's about, I think you said 5,000 to 7,000.
Yeah.
No. The ones, before I ask that question, what are the ones that are available most in Nigeria? You mentioned GADA. Is it all those?
No. We only have Cervical available in Nigeria because that's the one that is marketed by GSK.
That's the only one available in the whole country.
Yes.
Cervical. Is that under the 9-valent
one?
The
divalent one. The one that's
16 and 18.
Against 16 and 18.
Wow. Okay.
Although we're trying to see whether we can get the Gardasil 9 to.
Okay. 16 and 18. So what's the cost of this one, man?
Yeah, it's the one I said. I'm not sure. It used to be, I think, 5,500, but I don't know the present cost now.
Yeah, maybe inflation has
entered. You need to take 2 doses.
Okay. All right. So okay. Please put your stuff on. All right, man. So we've gotten a lot of information from you. I think this is beautiful. This is beautiful because most people don't actually know about HPV. In fact, I don't think I actually even know much about it like I am now. That's why I'm writing it down furiously. So I'll know that. Yes, I'll know that. Yes, and finally, ma, is it possible for interested people to number one, get the materials that you use in lecturing us, then number 2, get across to you. I know they cannot actually do that through me, but in case they want to, they need advice.
Yes, I can send it to you. Yeah, I can send it to you.
All right, man. So I will think I will spread this around for those who are interested. So thank you very much, man. Let me quickly give this, at least we're within time. Wow, this is beautiful. This it's almost 8. So thank you for those who who attended this About Talk. We are at the end of this edition. Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
No problem. You're free. Sorry. You're free.
All right. So I was going to ask about where to get the vaccine earlier, but you already asked that. So what I would like to ask now is about the hormone drugs and all. Like, are we supposed to avoid using them at all, totally, to prevent it?
The risk factors. One of the risk factors.
Yeah. Okay. That's a very good. Yeah, that's a very good. That's very good. Yeah. Like some of the hormonal drugs, you don't have a choice, but because it's actually prescribed, or let's say it's for family planning. So most people taking it, they don't have a choice but to take it. So that is why you should go for the screening. So the testing, the regular testing is the best thing for you to do. You know, like I said, almost all the risk factors, virtually everybody is affected by the risk factor. So that is why screening is said to be the most important way of preventing it.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Do men go for screening too? I need to go for screening.
Well,
I think I need to.
Unfortunately, there is no screening platform for men presently. Especially for anal cancer.
I don't. When you see this one, we have to start
it. There should be for anal cancer. For men, yes. Yes, it causes anal cancer now. So
yeah, but it will show now. It will show the what?
If it's in, that is what I'm talking of cancer now. It is inside. By the time it comes out,
inside,
it's already too late.
Wow. No, that's scary. That's scary. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that question.
So there should be a program for screening for anal cancer. You're right.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, please. We need against. We need that information very soon.
Yeah. But presently, even for the cervical cancer screening, it is not really patronized. So our women need to go out there to take the screening. So all the guys here, encourage your sisters, but anybody that have started having sex should go for the test, should be screened annually.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the purpose for this talk too, so that we'll be able to spread the information. I just remember something from the question that the last person asked. The birth control are classified under hormonal drugs, right? The birth
yeah.
Okay. So it covers. Okay, no problem. So, any other question?
Mantole, do you want to ask question?
I don't know why the guy is not showing his face. Do you want to ask question?
Okay.
No, but Mantole is due to give a BioTalk next week also. So, he's talking about.
Okay, I must not miss that.
Yeah, he's talking about zoonosis from his animals. So he's
I must not miss that. I must not miss that.
And I'm trying to lure Meshach too. He just sleep in here and he just left again to give me some battle. Yeah. So
he's here.
Is it there, Abi?
The Chibok man is here.
He's here. Okay. So thanks everybody. This has been very educating. This is one of the things that we are setting this up for. All this information that we don't know is available. We need those information. So against next time, we'll still be open for a larger audience. The video for the talk will be on the page MicroBiotics, so that if you want to share it, you can share it. If you want to go over it again, you can go over it again. And Dr. Faneye, we are inviting you for more. We still have a lot to discuss.
There's no problem. I'm available.
Okay, so thank you very much, ma'am. And
thank you everybody. Nice seeing everybody.
Nice
seeing
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. So see you next time.
Bye.
Yeah,
bye. Class have ended though.
Class has ended.
Alright.
Hello, sorry,
No, Azizat. That's Azizat voice, Abi.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are
Good
you?
evening.
I'm
Make
fine,
sure
sir.
talk now.
Why Mesha just hide here? You don't talk. I think the guy don't sleep.
Now the guy they pray alongside with his dog there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a nonsense boy.
Mesha want to speak. Oh, yeah, speak.
He wants. Oh yeah, speak now.
All right. So let me quickly end this one before we.
But